I'm going to say this plainly because the housing conversation in Canada has become detached from reality. A lot of people are still waiting for a rescue that isn't coming. They're waiting for rate cuts to save affordability. They're waiting for demand to magically rebound. And they're waiting for the market to return to what it looked like during the stimulus era. That mindset is the problem. Let's start with the Bank of Canada. Rates are being held where they are because policymakers believe policy is already doing its job. Inflation is cooled. Core measures have eased. Growth is slowing. From their perspective, this is not a crisis environment, it's an adjustment phase. That distinction matters. The bank is not trying to restart housing. They are not trying to juice demand. They are trying to preserve credibility while the economy digests slower growth, trade risk, and tighter financial conditions. And yet, people keep acting like rate cuts are inevitable. They're not. Markets are not pricing in meaningful relief. The idea that borrowing costs are about to collapse is wishful thinking, not analysis. If anything, the bank's own language makes it clear that they are comfortable staying restrictive for longer than people want to admit. They are openly acknowledging structural constraints, slower population growth, trade friction, weak productivity. This is not the setup for cheap money. Now let's talk about inflation, because this is where narratives really break down. Yes, headline inflation is close to target. Yes, core inflation has cooled, but shelter costs still dominate the picture, and that creates confusion. In real life, rents are softening, vacancy rates are rising, and asking rents are no longer climbing the way they used to. In the data, inflation still looks sticky. That disconnect doesn't mean the Bank of Canada is blind. It means inflation data lags reality. And until the official numbers reflect what's already happening on the ground, policy stays tight. Anyone telling you cuts are guaranteed is ignoring how central banks actually behave. Now, mortgage renewals. This is where fear has really been weaponized. For years, the narrative was simple. A massive renewal wave is coming, payments are going to explode, forced selling will follow, and prices will crash. That story was easy, it was dramatic, but it was wrong. The reality is uneven. Yes, some households are seeing higher payments, specifically those who locked in 5-year fixed mortgages at the absolute bottom of the rate cycle, but even there, the picture is more nuanced than people will admit. Those borrowers pay down a lot of principal. They built equity quickly. They had years to adjust their finances. And this is not the same as someone being blindsided overnight. Meanwhile, a huge group of borrowers are experiencing the opposite. People who took shorter term fixed mortgages during the rate hiking cycle are renewing into lower rates. And now their payments are actually following. This is not an opinion. This is math. When you look at the system as a whole, the median renewal impact is flat. Not catastrophic, and it's not destabilizing. The renewal wave didn't break the market. It exposed how badly simplified narratives perform in complex systems. Now, mortgage rates today. This is the part people really don't want to hear. Rates are not high, they're normal. They feel high because people anchored themselves to emergency level borrowing costs that were never sustainable. That era is over. 3-year fixed, 5-year fixed, variable. They're all clustered around the same range because markets don't see a dramatic move in either direction. Translation, no rescue coming. And that leads directly to the housing demand. Housing demand does not recover just because rates stop rising. It recovers when people feel confident about their future income, their job security, and economic stability. Right now, confidence is weak. Businesses are cautious. Hiring plans are limited. Trade policy remains uncertain, and consumers are becoming defensive. That is not a demand-driven environment. So when people talk about a housing rebound, the real question is simple. What's the catalyst? Rates are stable, not falling. Credit is tight, not loosening. Economic growth is modest, not accelerating. And sentiment is negative, not optimistic. Hope is not a catalyst. Now look at Vancouver. Sales volumes are depressed, not slightly, but meaningfully. And this is coming off of a year that already ranked among the weakest in decades. You don't bounce from historic lows without a reason. The idea that housing just turns around because enough time has passed is a myth. Markets don't heal on calendars, they heal on incentives. Right now, incentives are misaligned. Buyers don't feel urgency. Sellers don't want to capitulate. Lenders are conservative, and policy is restrictive by design. That combination produces stagnation, not collapse, not boom. Stagnation with stress concentrated at the margins. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Canada's housing is not being propped up anymore. It's being managed. The Bank of Canada is prioritizing price stability and credibility over asset reflation. Housing outcomes are a consequence, not a goal. Until confidence improves at the household level, activity stays selective. Until income growth accelerates, leverage stays constrained. Until uncertainty clears, optimism stays scarce. That's the structure. You can ignore it or you can adapt to it. But pretending the old playbook still applies is how people get stuck waiting for markets moving sideways for years. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.